On today's episode, we are interviewing Jason Christensen, the creator of Sleep Trailer. Jason Christensen was seeing an increasing number of people experiencing homelessness and decided to start Sleep Trailer, which aims to create a bed for every head. They give people a place and a chance to stabilize and take back control of their lives. As the son of a cabinet maker and home builder, Jason is not afraid to envision and create innovative ways to solve complex problems. But he and Sleep Trailer needs your help to help give a bed for every head and help solve homelessness even worldwide, and to bring this dream to reality. So let's listen to Jason and Sleep Trailer and to see what they are about, how they are bringing a solution to homelessness among a wide range of problems in the world, and how we can also get involved to solve a worldwide issue. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the GoodViral podcast. We are really excited because we are bringing someone, we discovered them from TikTok. So thank you for being part of the podcast, Jason. We are so pleased that you could be with us today. How would you describe the heart and mission of your organization, Sleep Trailer?
My mission is to create a bed for every head, right? So that's kind of our mission statement, because I believe that if you have a foundation, a place that you can call your own, even if it's a small place, it allows you to be able to stabilize, get out of that 24-hour survivor mentality, and start thinking about the future, start thinking about the next steps for your life, and realizing that, hey, I'm worth it. Like I'm worth more than this, and I can do more than this, because so many people get kind of stuck in that chronic homeless cycle, right? They live in tent city and they go, hey, I can't leave because if I leave, all my stuff's going to get stolen. So I got to team up with somebody else. Okay, you go get the food, I'll go guard the stuff. And then they're stuck. You can't get a job, you can't get resources, you can't do all those things because you're kind of trapped in the situation that you're in. And I really wanted to find a way to get people an opportunity, right? Because you can't force people to make choices or to take accountability for their life, but we can create the conditions that would allow them to help them want to take that accountability and take those next steps and just get them out of the cold. Like, so many people are dying and freezing. It's awful. And I don't know what it's like where you guys are at, but here in Oregon, like, tents, there's homeless camps, there's shelters, and there's just everything all over the place. I just went, okay, how do I become a part of this? How do I help? And I didn't want to just help individuals experiencing homelessness. My real mission, my real goal is end chronic homelessness. They say to start small with your goal when you start. And I was just, I'm going to end chronic homelessness. I maybe took a bit of a leap there, but yeah, that is the mission, is just give people a chance.
Well, it's great. I mean, obviously, it's a great objective. And that's what we're here for, right? On this podcast today, is to inspire some people to join the mission, to join the cause. Can you share with us what happened for you, or what was it that sparked this or inspired this for you from the beginning?
I'm just a regular random dude, and I was on my way to work and I saw a gentleman sleeping under a business overhang with like a blanket, and that was it. And it was like a fall day. It was cold out. It was rainy because, I live in Oregon and it's always raining in Oregon. My heart just broke, and I was actually really mad. I was just like, why isn't anybody doing something about this? Not mad at the individual, but just mad at the system, our community, the society, just everything at large. Like, why isn't something being done to help somebody have a safe place to sleep at night? Like, this guy's like probably 5 feet from the road, like just sleeping under a business overhang. And I went, and as I'm like in this like anger, like, why isn't somebody doing something about this? Just this like punch to the gut, this overwhelming feeling was just like, you're somebody. Why aren't you doing something about this? At first, you just kind of take that step back and you go, what, me? Who am I? I'm just some random guy. Like, I don't have, Anastasia's connection to individuals that are experiencing homelessness. I didn't have that connection, other than this is my community. This is where I grew up. These are my people. I do not want them to live like this or have to live like this. So you have to understand that I'm a behavior specialist. That's my normal day job. So my job is to find the behavior pattern and then figure out how to break that behavior pattern and start a new behavior pattern. And so that's kind of the angle that I was looking at it. I work with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that's kind of the realm that I'm in. And so that's kind of, I'm always trying to problem solve things. Started researching everything that was out there. I just wanted something that could help a lot of people in the easiest way. And I came across Japanese business hotels.
Yeah, the tubes, right?
Mhm,
Yep.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
and it was just like, I love the efficiency, the simplicity of it, just what you need, not a whole lot of bells and whistles and frills to get through the night. And I just thought, man, I wish we had those here. Like, how many times do you go to the beach or go somewhere where you're just like, I just really want a place to crash? Typically in the Japanese business hotels, they have community showers and bathrooms and all those amenities and things. If I can take that concept and put it on a trailer, Twilight Zone, you got me inside the,
Yeah, we
in the
we can see
trailer.
it perfectly, the
See it
picture, yeah.
poking out there in one of the tubes. Yep.
I'll just put me on my shoulder like a parrot there. You could put that on a trailer, then it gives it the flexibility to go to wherever it's needed. A city could use it for a while until they found other solutions, and then it could be sent to another city that could use it for a while, and so it's a solution that is super flexible and helps people where they're at. And not only that, you can use it for a million different things. We have forest fires here in Oregon, and firefighters need a place to sleep and crash. You got natural disasters that are happening all over the world all the time. We just had some pretty crazy forest fires that wiped out cities in Oregon. And so this would have been awesome, right? Because so many people were displaced and had nowhere to go. And so hotel prices all jacked up because, people were trying to get out and find a spot. What if the city or state had a bunch of these and could just pull them in and park them at the fairgrounds and say, hey, here you go. Here's a place to sleep. Kids are safe. You're safe. And we can get you through the night. And so that's kind of what started this whole process and whole mission. It's 8 individual capsules. There's 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom. This is the side that we're looking at now is kind of the back side because the doors are on the upper level. And then the doors for the bottom ones are on the opposite side there. But they're 4 feet, 8 inches wide, 4 feet tall, and 8 feet long. People think that it would be really claustrophobic and kind of tight, but when you're actually in there, it's actually way more spacious than people think, right? Because you got like the RV campers where they have those loft beds above the driver and passenger seat. Like same thing. Those are like 2.5 feet, 3 feet maybe.
I
Yeah,
remember
right.
watching some of your TikTok videos and, seeing just you getting into it and showing how you could fit a bed and how you could fit some luggage and some backpacks and everything like that. And this holds a lot of problems when it comes with homeless. Seeing, refugees, I'm seeing you can see all sorts of stuff happening with this natural disasters like the forest fires or flooding or whatever. And from what I'm gathering as well, it's a pretty simple design. So creating more of these would actually be pretty simple. And being able to haul them around is also very simple. And so it's a very simple solution to a huge problem, because a lot of these other solutions that are about this just a ridiculous amount of logistics when it comes to like RVs or tents or at least container homes or whatever it may be. It's very heavy, it's very big, and it's very flimsy in some ways. And so this is a very structured structure that you got on wheels that can really work for 8 people. I think that's absolutely astounding. You can have 8 people in here, and if you just had 100 of these, that's 800 people that could really have some relief to whatever the thing may be. And so I know that in Oregon, there's a bit higher rate of homelessness than there is in a lot of different areas around the world. In Denver, we have a pretty high rate as well. There's like a homeless kind of area within downtown Denver because it just surrounds the large shelter that we have there. And so we tend to see, tent city, as you called it. So when it comes to Oregon, it seems like you're really solving a problem. So I know you're pretty early in this,
Right.
but have you seen a direct impact or any kind of results from having these trailers?
So it hasn't been used yet. So we're still in that early of a stage, but we've got several shelters and organizations that are moving forward. But whenever you deal with government funding or state kind of run things move really slow, especially if it's a totally brand new idea or concept. It's moving in the right directions. I just met with some ordinance writers for a city because I have a shelter that really wants to use it. And so they got the chief of police involved and made sure that it would be okay and able to be used. And so they pulled an ordinance writer in. And so now they're actually writing code that would easily allow for the sleep trailer in there to be used and things like that.
That's
And
excellent.
yeah, I have another organization that they really like it because they have a piece of property that's on a floodplain. If they're going to do anything there, they have to have something that could be taken away really quickly. Okay, hey, it's raining. We got to get the water's rising. So let's get these out. They really like it for that flexibility and use. And even within like individuals experiencing homelessness, there's lots of different uses, right? So you have like COVID outbreaks. So they have these congregate settings where it's just like this gym full of people. If somebody gets COVID there, they got to get them out, right? Because then that spreads to everybody else. So having something like this, like, hey, you can be here, right? Where you're not gonna get anybody else sick.
Just real quickly, from what we understand from one of your TikToks too, it's be pretty simple to clean too. Like it's pretty slick surface inside enough to where you could just do a nice little bleach sprayer and let it dry out, and it should be able to be used again pretty quickly.
Yeah, there's it's like a truck bed liner coating. The prototype doesn't have it, but there's also a fireproof coating that you do as well. And then there's a drain in each floor. So you could spray it down, clean it out, disinfect it, and get ready for the next person to use. Back to your concept of like, how do I make this as simple and efficient and just as easy as possible? Because there's a lot of people that fall through the cracks. Another one is like people with dogs. They are not allowed in the shelter because they have a dog, but like this dog is their best friend, the person that the thing that they care and love more than anything in the world. Well, here's a solution, right? Like here's a place that you can go. And back to your point of it being a spot for 8, you could actually fit 16, right? 2 in each one, but it'd have to be somebody that you like loved and wanted to be right next to you. So like somebody could sleep in there and have their dog right next to them.
Or even couples or a mom with a kid or, so I like this a lot because there's a lot of shelters around the world have weird rules and how kids kind of are navigated through the shelters. And so there you go. I love this photo. I think it's really great. And look, you can see how tall it is. That's awesome. Even having like a kid or 2 or 3. I had a friend who unfortunately went into a huge domestic abuse. So it was her and her 3 kids, and it was just a crazy maneuver thing. Like halfway shelters were not able to take her right away, and just all this navigating because she had children.
Shelters are full, right? Like hey, there are these shelters, but like the wait list is 200, 300 people long because homelessness is happening all over the place right now.
To put it in perspective, so when we talk about, because of course I'm in Spain, so for our international listeners, we're talking about 8 feet. A typical ceiling or roof of the room that you're in is about 8 feet. So half of that would be the size of your unit. So that's pretty tall.
Yeah.
And if it's that same width.
Yeah, if it's it that way now. I like that.
There you go. If it's that same width, then you've really got quite a lot of space, especially if what you really need more than anything is just the ability to be able to sit up, to be able to move around a little bit, and to be able to sleep, have somewhere, like you say, safe, and that's not on the street, and somebody's not going to try to hurt you or rob you in the middle of the night while you're trying to sleep. I'm remembering we have another one of our episodes with Benjamin Orvat has an amazing method for recycling trash, basically, and turning that into walls and other types of construction materials. And so his business also is a new business. And part of what's GoodViral, sometimes we've got companies like yours that haven't really taken hold. Really what we're all about here is about sharing with people the ideas behind all of it, because it's something that's extremely relatable. Before I ask the question, I want to tell you that when you were sharing your story and about, hey, I'm somebody, I mean, I literally got chills. I mean, it was very, very powerful, that story, because I think that so many of our listeners feel inside that, hey, this is why they're even listening to this podcast, is that is that, yeah, they believe in doing good things, and they want to do good things, and they want to do more with their lives to contribute. But maybe they don't realize that it really does start with them, and they really do have a lot of value. And I love how you've taken that on. Now that you've not only started the concept, but you've built the structure, you've been working with people to get the business launched and effective, and all the different things that you've done. For us, we always talk about this. It's about the conversation, right? It's about once you start talking about something and other people get involved in that conversation. So what have you noticed? What are some of the, you might say, ripple effects that you've noticed as a result of the conversations that you've been having with the various people in regards to your concept?
You have kind of two different conversations. So one is that person that's like, oh, interesting. And then you have the other person that like their eyes get really big and they see it, right? They see the potential that it has. I was talking with a great man a couple of weeks ago. He was talking about just like case managers, how hard it is for a case manager to find somebody, right? So like I have this person on my caseload, but they're homeless and they don't stay in the same spot ever. Right.
Can you describe what a case manager is, just for our listeners who don't know?
Yeah, so they have these, like an individual that is in charge of a bunch of different people, and they get them and they connect them to other resources. So whether that's job, whether that's addiction resources, whether that's mental health services, whether that's just food and shelter and a place to sleep. So their job is to connect them to everything else. Well, they can't find, there actually are quite a bit of resources out there right now, but they can't find people and connect them sometimes because they're moving around, because they are sleeping here one night and then they get kicked out, or they get in a fight with their neighbor and then they have to move to a different spot. And it's really hard to find people because they're living in that survivor mentality, that trauma 24-hour cycle. So where they're only thinking the next couple of hours into the future. And so they're not worried about, their mental health or a job or like all these other things. They're just worried about, what am I going to eat now? Where am I going to sleep? Am I going to be safe? Like you said, kind of the ripple effects is just the conversations and the ideas that come about. So I've been working on this for 5 years. So this wasn't something that I just like last weekend was like, hey, I got this idea, I'm going to do this. No, this was back in 2016, 2017, where I really started saying, okay, what can I do? How can I do this? And so it's been cool just to see other people's ideas as you kind of bring it out, and people think about it in a way that I've never thought about, or describe it in a way that I've never thought about. And I go, oh man, but it's kind of that way in life. Like when you are so focused on something, it attracts all those other things and all those other ideas and those other concepts that there's no way you would have been able to come up with on your own. But because you started on that path and you started walking, those things kind of find you, and those people find you. That to your listeners, I just say, whatever it is that they want to do and they want to help, just start walking, start going. It's hard to guide somebody's path that isn't walking. It's been kind of neat, just like the comments that I get from other people of, oh my gosh, you've inspired me, I'm going to start doing this and this and this. Call me up and say, hey, I was so inspired by what you did that I went down and I did this. And I'm like, wow, like, again, it goes back to like, I'm just some dude, like just some random guy that was like, I don't want to live the rest of my life wondering what if or what could have been. So much in fact that like, we didn't have the resources to do this, right? Like I literally took out a bank loan and was like, I'm going to make this happen. Like this has to exist. Like I'm just some guy with a regular job, and, my wife has a regular job. And I just said, I'm going for it and we're going to do this, and anybody can do that. It's just how convinced are you that it's what you need to do?
Some people, I think, we're hoping, are going to be convinced right now while they're listening to you during this podcast. So this is an incredibly powerful message that we're sharing here.
To those who are listening who may not quite get the complexities of people who go through homelessness, and that there are a lot of resources out there, and every state has a lot of resources, and then there's federal resources, and then there's 501c3 resources, and so on. There's just so much out there that sometimes it's really hard to navigate all of the resources. My father was actually one of the people that I mentioned was part of homelessness, and he was homeless from 40 till he passed away at 60 years old. He had dealt with a lot of mental illness that just kept deteriorating and brought him to be homeless for the last 20 years of his life. I remember sitting down with him towards the end of his life there, and we had reconnected. But I remember him telling me, this was in his last year, he told me, Anastasia, there were so many resources out there that I just didn't know about. And in the end, I had chosen homelessness. And that's not everyone's story, of course. For him, that's what he said. And he's like, I didn't have to have these problems and these financial struggles and not have to be on the streets and not have to, try and scrounge for food and all of this. And so there are so many resources out there, but again, it's connecting them to those resources in the way that is appropriate. And there's not enough caseworkers really to cover that because it's an underfunded area. This is very, very important what you're doing here, Jason, because you're creating a solution that people can point to. Well, I want to connect you to all these things, but let's get you a place to sleep tonight. And that in itself, just to know you have a dry, warm place to sleep that's safe for you and maybe your kids, is a huge relief right away because it solves one problem. Where am I and maybe my kids going to be tonight? Right. And then the food problem is the next step, and then so on and so forth. So you really, with these conversations, I'm seeing a lot of interconnected solutions that could be a potential on the horizon. So I'm really excited to see where your journey goes and how it creates these solutions.
I often explain to people, like, how do you feel after a night where you've only gotten 2 hours of sleep?
Mhm.
Like, are you a rational, reasonable human being that day? Like, probably not. Well, what if you do that 5 nights in a row, a
Every
week in a
day.
row, a month in a row? Like, where's your mental health, your mental capacity? Like, you're not thinking clearly. Like, I really believe that it could be just getting sleep could be a major step in getting people stabilized and rehabilitated. And this is one of the things I love about it is it's private. You go to that shelter where it's a congregate setting where it's lots of people and there's just like cots everywhere, but you're sleeping there, and the person next to you is having a mental health crisis. Like, how well are you going to sleep at night? Right? You're going to be sleeping with one eye open. You're not going to feel safe. Whereas like something like this, you could actually go in, you have your own space to breathe, to take a deep breath, and to sleep with, even if your next door neighbor is having a mental health crisis, they can't get to you, right? So you could still be able to sleep okay because you know that you're safe. And it's not everything, but it's something, for sure.
Yeah. Can you again, for our international listeners, that expression "fall through the cracks," you mentioned that twice. So what does that mean to you, people that fall through the cracks?
So they have systems in place. So it's people that don't conform perfectly to that system in place. So for example, they have a shelter, right? But this person has a dog and they will not leave that dog. So they suddenly can't get the support because they're not conforming to that system or that rule. Or so I was talking to this shelter, the executive director of a shelter, and she was like in tears talking about one of the individuals in the congregate shelter having COVID. And they literally had to just like put them out in the parking lot because they had nowhere else to put them, right? And she's like, so there's like a couple people that have COVID and they just like huddle them in the parking lot. That's somebody that could have been helped or could have been supported in something like this, but that opportunity was missed because they as we say, fell through the cracks. So they not everybody falls into the same cookie cutter assembly line, right? And so that's why we got to have some flexibility because everybody's different. What works for one person may not work for another. How I see Sleep Trailer is by partnering with shelters because they already exist. They already have the resources. They already have the staff. All we would be doing is pulling a sleep trailer up and parking it in the parking lot and suddenly increase their bed capacity. They have 40 beds in the shelter. Now they got 40 more beds in the parking lot because they got, five sleep trailers that they parked out in the parking lot. And so now they can suddenly help 80 people where they could only help 40 before. And so, and then they could use the bathrooms and the facilities and the showers and all the resources that are at that shelter already. Sure, we could add a bathroom. Sure, we could add a kitchenette to the back, but then there's people that are out in the cold. And for me, that's the part that seems to be missing. Like we talked about there being resources. The resource that there's not is beds. All sorts of different resources out there. The one resource that seems to be lacking is a space to sleep, a safe place to sleep. I'm just like,
Yes.
Let's get a million of those. Let's have everybody have a safe place to sleep. And then we could start connecting them to all those other resources that are out there much, much easier.
Some interesting ideas that I've had while you were talking. And I was talking to Anastasia before we started this call about, I think it's a human tendency, something that I do, something that many people can relate to, is that we've all seen homeless people. We've all been asked by people for money on the street and so forth. And I know that my tendency is without trying to, I'll judge sometimes. I'll say, oh, well, that person, has a drinking problem and that's why they're in that situation. And it's very difficult in that few seconds that we have an interaction with that person, whether we see them or we talk to them. It's very difficult to get beyond that initial stage of judgment and to start really thinking about that individual and why they're in that situation. And like Anastasia was saying, some people, like her father was saying, no, I choose to be out here sleeping. But the reality is that, those people probably don't choose to have the problems and the difficulties that they have, which most of the time, those problems and difficulties is what causes them to be out there sleeping like that. And the other thing is, I don't know anybody who is like a lone hunter who lives in the forest and who hunts their own food and does everything alone. We are all dependent upon each other, all of us. And it's not just these people that need help. Every single one of us need help. Every single time a person goes to a job interview, basically saying, please, job, help me because I need this. Every single thing that we do where we're interacting with others, we're constantly helping each other. That's what society is, and that's what human race is. And that's the only way the human race exists. We have to remember that these people, they're no different than we are. The only difference is they just need a different type of help than maybe we need, but we still all need it. And so what I love about what you're doing, and I love about the conversation that you're creating, is that, hey, this isn't theory anymore. You said, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to do it right now. Taking your own money, your own time, your own effort. You're out there working, trying to get this into effect. You taking action and really doing something. Talk about this all the time here on our podcast, how it's so easy for us when we don't have to go to work. It's so easy for us to just watch Netflix or to play PlayStation or just to do or whatever other hobby or thing that is just for us. But how many people are out there that are actually saying, hey, I want to really actually help some other people? Is that it's fulfilling. When you do it and you're helping other people, you feel good about it. You feel like you're doing something fun and you're doing something interesting. What are one or two things that people can do every day or that people can do right now to bring an impact to your mission?
The simplest thing you could do is to talk with somebody that's experiencing homelessness, because so many people experiencing homelessness feel invisible, and so if we can help them bring their humanity back, help them be seen, then that can really help them to understand that, hey, they're worth it, right? They're worth so much more than what they're experiencing or what they're doing right now. So many people just kind of don't feel seen, and as far as Sleep Trailer is concerned, really what I need is, businesses that might want to advertise, sponsor a capsule, or shelters that want to use a sleep trailer. And so like if I get a shelter that's like, hey, I want to use a sleep trailer, but I don't have the funds for it, then we can start a campaign in that area, meeting with businesses and cities and organizations that say, hey, they'll manage it, but we got to raise funds to build it. Can you help us out? And then get those funds to get those built so that they can get them out there. And just talking about it, right? So it's an idea that many people still to this day have not heard about. They've never seen anything like that. Like you guys, right? So you guys found me on TikTok. Like I have been connected to some really awesome organizations and awesome people through just people sharing our videos and talking about it and talking about solutions. Maybe they hate Sleep Trailer, right? Maybe they think this is the worst thing ever, but maybe that starts to get them to think about what they think the best solution should be. And they start going, okay, like let's go. Like at the end of the day, if people have a dry, safe place to sleep at night and have that possibility to take that next step in life, we got to go for it.
What is that one space that you would love for people to connect with you and perhaps share, like, comment, what is that one space you would really direct people towards?
SleepTrailer.com, connecting and emailing and sharing that with other people and really helping us find other people that want to do this and want to make this a reality.
I want to give a quick call to action. All those listeners out there, if you don't own a business and you can't make the decision to sponsor, or if you're not connected to a homeless shelter, remember that if you have a job, you work for a business. And all you have to do is just start the conversation, because maybe the people who do own that business will think it's a good idea. I suggest that people go to your website, that they download some of these photos, that they share the TikTok videos, and they share with people and say, hey, check this out. This is really cool. And this is a really good idea. And like you said, if people think it's not a good idea, at least they'll be talking about it. But the reality is that every single person out there that's listening right now is going to know people, and that is going to connect to people that can do something and that can make a difference, that can sponsor. I love the advertising idea. And there's many different ways that businesses and that individuals can be involved and contribute to make this a reality, because one step at a time, this is the start of something much more important for those individuals.
Let me give you a real life stat. So shelter in my hometown, they have different shelters. They have found that 40% of the people that come into the shelter then progress on to positive placement outside the shelter. If we could get a bed for every head and help 40% of the people that are out there right now, right, this year, and then next year we focus on the other 60%, and and then we can start specializing there, and there is a potential to truly and honestly end chronic homelessness. Homelessness will always exist because it's a transition, right? You lose that job, or health stuff comes, or whatever the case may be, that will always be there, but it doesn't have to be permanent.
So everyone who's listening, please go check out sleeptrailer.com. Follow Jason, if you will, on TikTok as well. He can kind of show you all the specs and the fun stuff that Sleep Trailer can do for these people. Thank you for listening to the Good Viral podcast and being part of a conversation. If you are inspired by this episode, go to our website at goodviral.org, where you can find resources and listings from the episode to continue good efforts.
Like, comment, and share this episode to any or all of your social media channels. It's really easy to take a small action, and maybe you'll inspire a big result.
When good goes viral, the world gets better.